there are 3 things we all should do every day. If we do this every day of our life, you're going to have, what a wonderful, number 1 is laugh. You should laugh every day. Number 2 is think. You should spend some time in thought. And number 3 is you should have your emotions moved to tears. Could be happiness or joy. But think about it. If you laugh, you think, and you cry, that's a full day. That's a heck of a day.
After a week off, we are back with the SNDP Podcast Show on the Schmuck Sports Network, episode 55. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Dan, happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving out there.
I hope you're all recuperated.
Yeah, I'm tired of turkey. I'm sure everybody else is. Happy Hanukkah to you, Steve, and all the Jewish listeners. I hope you all had a happy and healthy one as well. What was it?
Eight crazy nights.
Thanks Hanukkah? Thanks Hanukkah?
Mazel Tov.
For that, yeah, that's a lot easier. Why didn't you say that first?
You went for it.
Yeah, I went for the Hail Mary on that one. Well, a lot of ups and downs since we missed last week about the New York Metropolitan sports teams. The best team in the local area right now is the New York Rangers, and they're a 500 team. So that's all you need to know about this.
New York sports is awful. Very
awful. Jets and Giants are going nowhere and nowhere quick. Knicks and Nets, that's all you got to say. The Islanders have, thank God November's over. We'll get more into that with Andy, who comes on from Eyes on Isles later on tonight.
Yeah.
And
New York sports is awful. Rangers
win 1, lose 1, yada, yada, yada. Other than that...
I'll tell you what my favorite part is. New York sports Twitter.
The overreaction of New York sports Twitter.
It's just funny to read.
It's just everybody's going nuts over the littlest thing, and God forbid one player. We'll get into it. It's funny you say that. I think I have an overreaction of every single team in each segment of Twitter fans.
And like you heard in our little intro piece we had there for the Jimmy V Foundation, New York sports teams make us do all 3 of those things. They make us laugh, make us cry, and they make us think.
Yes.
So right now, let's go play some more Division 1.1 Dying Day, and we'll be right back. And welcome back to the S&D Podcast Show on the Schmuck Sports Network. Episode 55, Mr. Nichols.
Mr. Nichols, yeah. Yeah, what
Coming off a giant Washington week, might as well mention Mr. Nichols.
Where do we start with this giant win?
Our offense looked like crap.
Our offense looked like crap, like it's been the whole entire season.
I'll tell you who was our best part. I'll tell you our best portion of this game. Defensive backfield.
Of course, as always.
Our defensive backfield was the best part. Holsey was good. Prince was good. Every pass that RG3 had to throw was a check down.
Yep, absolutely. And a lot of it has to do with our defensive line. I know there were some moments RG3 was able to pick them apart.
Who was that 91 guy?
Oh, I don't know. Some guy named Justin Tuck. He sucks. No, he had a blast from the pass game the other night. He has had a quite good year. The sacks weren't up to par until Sunday night, but he's had a good year.
Yeah.
And I think that game on Sunday actually kept him in New York this year, for next season. He's going to retire as a Giant.
I think he retires as a Giant. It's just about figuring out the money issue.
Yeah, and I think he's fine with that. I think he's at that point of his career. Of course, he wants the money, but he's not leaving New York. And he definitely totally deserves it. The way he's handled himself and him being a captain and everything like that, he's getting a little bit more grief than he should have, in my opinion, the last couple of years. I know sacks were down, but he's always there stopping the run. And he like he said in one of the newspaper articles that I've been reading while I'm at work, is he's Mr. Almost. And you got to put in that to consideration. That also is important, just as much as granted sacks are not there. But he's always in the face of the quarterback, and he is getting knockdowns and everything else like that. Unfortunately, he's not getting the stats.
The other trophy you got to give out is John Beeson.
Beeson was a beast again. No pun intended.
Can you argue him as NFL Comeback Player of the Year? There's not really anybody else you can really.
Probably, but Let's see.
Who else are you gonna? Who else missed? Like Jamal Charles was out most of last year.
No. He had a good year last year.
Wasn't that the year? Oh no, 2 years ago he tore his ACL.
He would have won it if AP wasn't.
Right.
Honestly, I don't know. He could be in the running, but
it's got to be somebody we're not thinking about.
Yeah, there has to be someone there. Speaking of someone who's been hurt all the last couple of years, T2 played another solid game. Will Hill, he's actually playing a lot better than what I expected and intended for him to be. And next year, we're going to be being able to go back to that 3 safety look, especially with Stevie Brown coming back healthy, hopefully. With the 3 of them back at it with Antrell Roll and Stevie Brown making big plays and forcing fumbles and stuff like that, just ripping the ball out of Pierre Garçon's hand in a clutch situation in the fourth quarter the other night. So they're playing well, and as a Giant fan, I'm really happy and satisfied. Granted, we're not we're not mathematically out of it, but with 3 games back with 4 games to play, our chances are have run out, unfortunately.
I don't think we're getting past Philly.
But honestly, as a Giant fan, I'm really happy and proud that the Giants they're fighting, and they could have easily 0-6 just completely tank it. I know they wouldn't tank it with Tom Coughlin as the coach, but that I'm happy that they're fighting back and being somewhat respectable. This year was just not their year, and it was just very wacky. Next year, there's going to be a lot of cap room. There's going to be a completely different team. So it's really going to be interesting to see. The Redskins are just a complete disarray this year. I think RG3 completely rushed back, and he is the shitstorm right now with everything that's going on with DC Sports. Which really sucks is they didn't expect to be a top 5 pick this year because of how good RG3's been. Unfortunately, the St. Louis Rams are getting that top 3 pick. So congratulations to the Rams on that.
Yeah.
So,
another year, another top 3 pick.
Yeah.
All right, fine. They're going to probably have a top 3 pick. I know it's early, but quarterback? Are you at the point where it's Sam Bradford can't stay healthy? You may want to start looking that way?
Yeah. But yeah, I think you give Sam Bradford another shot at things.
If you pick a guy top 3, he's starting.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
That's.
You know what they do say? This is the deepest quarterback draft probably of all time.
Yeah, that is true.
So you could probably steal one late and let Bradford start.
Yeah.
And have the new guy come in later.
It's going to be interesting to see. Thank God we're not general managers. Honestly, back to the Giants though. This week is a nice West Coast trip. Staying probably the nicest weather game. Yeah, a good Mets friend, Josh Lewin, does the play-by-play for the Chargers. It's going to be nice to see the Giants play in nice tropical weather in December. You normally don't see that, especially with the East Coast games and everything like that. So I'm expecting the Giants to show up this week playing tough, physical, hard-nosed football. Last time the Giants were in San Diego, they actually got their asses whooped, and it was Eli's return. Well, not return. Eli's first time in San Diego after telling the Chargers that he did not want to be a part of it.
That's his first full year.
Yes.
Eli as a starter.
Yes, we got killed.
It was like week 3 or something.
Yeah, LaDainian Tomlinson was LaDainian Tomlinson in his prime, and no one was stopping him. He actually threw a touchdown that night. I remember. But the Giants, the Chargers and the Giants are the exact same team. They've had their awesome moments. They've had their crappy moments. They have a good, solid quarterback in Rivers, but other players around them haven't been having awesome years, per se. It's going to be a close game, and I think the Giants eke one out just because they've been in the closer games this year, and they know what it takes to win. Well, what do you think on this week's Giants-Chargers matchup?
Chargers are just, I don't know. They're that team that, like, every week you think they're going to lose.
But they find a way to win.
But they find a way to play hard every week.
It's going to be one of those Giant games that they'll either win by a touchdown or an extra point, a small margin, or they'll get absolutely embarrassed. That has that kind of Giant game written all over it. But I think they're going to come out fighting strong since they're not mathematically out of it yet. But we all know if they lose another game or something like that, they could easily be eliminated this week. For all we know, if the Cowboys are something wacky has to happen for them to be mathematically eliminated. Obviously, if they lose, they're done. But even if they win, they could still be out of the playoff picture this week.
I do see them winning, though. I just feel like
they've been playing decently, well able to win games. Unfortunately, the Dallas Cowboy game was a mess. I'm happy we didn't have a show last week because we would not have a show this week. How bitter I was after that loss. Granted, the Cowboys did deserve to win that game, and they're probably going to end up winning the division unless Nick Foles has something to say about that. I think Murphy's Law finally took advantage for the Dallas Cowboys. And Cowboy fans, the real Cowboy fans, enjoy it.
I guess I'll say it because it is December.
Yeah, it is December, but they're playing the Bears on Monday night, so it's going to be very interesting to see which Bears team comes out. But I think the way Dallas has been playing, I think Dallas is going to find a way to win. And I think this year is the year for Dallas to finally win the division. As a Giant fan, it hurts me to say, but as a football fan, congratulations if they do end up winning, because they do deserve it. They might be one of the most overrated teams in the league, but finally getting over the hump is always good to see a team do. Granted, how much we dislike them. Let's move on to the Jets. The Jets. Let's see with the Jets. They don't have a quarterback again. Geno Smith hasn't thrown a touchdown since the week before Halloween. And
he doesn't, barely miss the receivers. He misses them by, yards.
I saw someone tweet out a really awful tweet today, considering how bad Geno Smith's been and how good Foles has been. Let's see. It was Nick Foles can throw 50 straight interceptions in a row, but still have a better quarterback rating than Geno Smith. That's how epically bad they've been so far this year. Yikes. He finally hit that rookie wall. That's what happens when you don't have a good supporting offense around him to build around. Daniel Jeremiah from NFL Network, this week on the one of the podcasts that I listened to with him on, he mentioned that Geno Smith was one of his top-ranked quarterbacks, but he shouldn't have started this year. He would have been a good pro if he didn't start and learned. And you're seeing that firsthand right now, and unfortunately, you're not starting Matt Sims. And I'm sorry, he had a great preseason. Whoop-de-freaking-do.
Oh, yeah. He did what game? One game he helped them come back against the Giants?
Yeah, that was the third stringers against them. And honestly, whoop-de-freaking-do. I'm sticking with Geno. Unfortunately, you got to stick with Geno. He granted, he hasn't given you the chance to win the past weeks, but he's better than Matt Sims. I think they handed off the ball 15 times in a row. Obviously, you're not going to win a game doing that unless you have Adrian Peterson or Marshawn Lynch kind of thing. So the Jets need to figure something out, and I don't think they're going to fire Rex if they completely shit the bed, which they're on the brink of doing.
Can you argue that this may have been a first and second round bust?
Yeah,
with D. Milner?
With D. Milner, it's still out on him because you know how rookie quarterbacks are not the caliber of players that can step up into the league and be a stud right away. I know Tyrann Mathieu is the exception right now, but it takes cornerbacks a few years to gel and adjust.
Look at Prince.
Look at
Prince. I mean,
exactly.
Granted he was injured. But
that's the problem. The Jets knew D. Milner's had a big history in injuries.
Yeah. And
this year is pretty much his blue shirt kind of year, kind of thing with the injuries. He's had his good moments and he's had his bad. You still give him another year to bounce back and maybe be the cornerback that the Jets were hoping, drafting him in a top 5 spot. If your going ahead and marking the grades right now, obviously they have a bust in the first 2 rounds, unfortunately, so far this year, with their draft picks. But the Jets need to get an offense. They have a decent running game, which we know about. Their passing game is completely is nowhere to be found. Stephen Hill and Jeremy Curley hasn't been playing. Santonio Holmes has nowhere been found. He's been hurt. He's been MIA. He has no one to work with, and that's what we've been saying the last couple of years. The Jets need to get that player. They need to get that playmaker wide receiver that every good team has, and other players that they can build around, because no matter what quarterback you have, they're not going to be good because they have no one to throw the ball to. And that's what it comes down to. They don't have any. Of course he's going to be the worst quarterback in the league if they're going to be throwing to Jeff Cumberland is one of their elite wide receivers so far this season. And that's atrocious. It's just one of those things, and that they just got to fight it through, and they used the second-round draft pick on Smith, and they got to play him through thick and thin right now. And if the Jets find that he's not the guy for the future, they're unfortunately going to draft another quarterback, and hopefully they learn from the mistakes the last 2 quarterbacks.
I agree. They need to get help. I mean, Chris Ivory's been playing well.
As awesome as the Jets' defense is, but
they
Jets
can't win every game.
They can't win every game, and by the time it's halftime, they've been on the field. They've been on the field every snap. Like the other day against Miami. Miami had the ball for like 15 minutes to their 3 minutes. Dude. That's not how you're gonna win games, because going 3 and out and putting your defense back on a decent field position for the opposite team, it's not going to end well, and everybody knows that. So I don't know.
So Oakland wins?
Oakland wins, yeah. They looked pretty good against Dallas, but you're not beating Dallas on Thanksgiving at home, especially with Matt LeGuine from Penn State.
Alrighty, let's go play some more Dying Day, and we'll come back to talk about the miserable basketball teams.
SNDPODCAST is in no way affiliated with, associated with, produced, or endorsed by the National Football League or any of its affiliates.
All right, welcome back to the S&D podcast. You just listened to Division 1.1, Dying Day, this week's song. It's a pretty much fitting song, especially for the next sport we're talking about. Do we have to do this segment?
We haven't done all of them.
Unfortunately, yes, we have to do the segment. It's the NBA segment, and the Knicks and Nets are both very pitiful at the moment, jockeying for last place in the Atlantic Division right now. Which team do you want to go for first? Let's see.
Brooklyn.
Brooklyn?
That was the one that just came up on my screen.
Right. Well, all right. Let's have some fun. With Brooklyn. They're a very old team with a rookie coach. So
they can't be healthy.
They cannot be healthy. They already reassigned.
It's Lawrence Frank's fault.
It's Lawrence Frank's fault that they have a rookie coach. The only headline really, Paul Pierce is out for a few weeks with a broken hand, so that's also beautiful right now for the Nets.
Oh, quick plug for next week. We're gonna have Alex from Brooklyn
Nets fan
club. Just get his point of view on it.
Kevin Garnett does not seem to be happy playing for the Nets as well. They looked out of place and out of sync against the Denver Nuggets last night.
They have 2 more wins than the Knicks.
They do have 2 more wins than the Knicks right now, and it's just as really, really scary on how crappy both teams have played so far. They've had their bright moments, of course, which has been few and far between, but for the most part, it's just them not gelling, and they're getting the right system. The players being too old and not being able to play. Like we mentioned 2 weeks ago, in that West Coast trip, they had one guy from their normal starting lineup to start one of the games in that road trip. You can't have that. especially if you're supposed to contend for a division title, which is still very reachable because the first place team is absolutely awful, and the Nets could easily get hot, especially with their talent. But
is it safe to say that it's going to be the Heat and the Pacers in the Eastern Conference?
Oh,
Finals?
absolutely.
Okay.
It's not even close, unfortunately, and that's what's making this season unwatchable from this standpoint of things. You just know, and it's just, especially if the Knicks and Nets are both playing crappy, what's the point of even paying attention? And I hate to say that with 12 games into the season, but both teams need to wake the hell up, and they need to start playing like a team and finding ways to win and just get on a hot streak just to show their respected fan bases what's going on. It's still amazing to me. The Knicks play the Nets tomorrow on Thursday night, and StubHub tickets are still expensive. And it's kind of funny to see.
It's the matchup.
It is I know it's the matchup, but I just find it funny that they're still trying to get their money's worth on this awful matchup right now for two crappy teams right now. That's going to be very interesting to see. Someone needs to win that kind of game. Like, normally we're going to, we're better, vice versa, the bragging rights, but both teams have played so poorly right now that one team has to win. And it's going to be interesting to see which team decides to show up for that one particular night. Right now with the Knicks are a complete sideshow.
They're both a sideshow.
But Knicks right now are completely a sideshow. They lost the last 9 games in a row. They're calling for heads. They're having shouting matches. Iman Shumpert thinks he's going to get traded, which he might likely get traded now because Tim Hardaway Jr. is actually playing really well as of late. They're just not. They're not playing as a team. They're not gelling at all. Kenyon Martin and when Ron Artest get into shouting matches, that's not going to end well. Especially with both of their rough pasts on being those kind of thick alpha male kind of type of players. It's just an ugly situation, and unfortunately, Woodson's going to be the scapegoat. And I don't think firing Woodson, like we mentioned in all the other mid-season firings, it's not going to help the Knicks at all.
Oh, not at all. And of course, they're already talking about their replacement.
And the dumbest rumor of them all, it's just they're taking a play from the Nets playbook and might bring down
Allen
Houston. Of all the people to bring in a coaching job at Allen Houston, this is what I hate about the Dolans. They must have the biggest blackmail on every of their employees with the Knicks and Rangers. That they have their favorites and they stick to them for no matter how long. For example, Sather. How long has Sather been the GM for the Rangers? Forever. And the list goes on for both Knicks and the Rangers, and it's really annoying to see. How do you give Allen Houston a coaching job? He hasn't even been an assistant coach,
and yet Patrick Ewing doesn't even get interviewed.
Exactly. It's just mind-boggling. And honestly, that would be one of my last straws. Obviously, I'm not going to stop being a Knicks fan, but my fandom would definitely take a big hit. Because how do you expect us real Knicks fans to expect to take a beating watching this awful team that it's honestly they're all playing 1-on-5 and they all expect Melo to do something, and that's not how you win.
All right, you bring up Melo. It's a contract year for Melo. Is he gonna walk?
So if the season is going down the way we are not hoping it goes down, he very well could.
The key is going to be I think that this summer is going to show you if Melo's I care about winning guy or I care about myself guy.
But he can easily
because he can go any place else, get paid, and win.
Honestly, though, if the Knicks get Tyson Chandler back, they'll get their main
They'll get the energy guy.
Their balls back.
Their energy guy.
Yeah, they'll get essentially their balls back. They've been playing neutered, but honestly, with Melo, it's really going to be interesting to see how much money the Knicks can shell out for him, and see if they can get another free agent.
Well, it would be him and then putting him over the cap. he can get. Remember, he can get the bigger deal from the Knicks because it's replacing his team.
Yeah. I don't know. It's gonna be up to Melo. The way you would assume Melo leaving if this season turns as nightmarish as it begins, and you don't blame him for it because you would too. But honestly, at the end of the day, we all know he's technically from New York, just like how Michael Jordan's from New York, but he moved when they were young. But honestly, it's about the name on the front, not the name on the back. On days if Melo was to leave, it would suck, but I wouldn't lose any sleep over it because players come and go. It's just very frustrating to be a Knick or a Net fan right now, and both teams have to find ways, and they could easily find a way. That's why I don't like how the Dolans are they're forcing their hand and maybe firing Woodson a little too early. They could easily pull out a 10-game winning streak as much as they've lost the last 9 games. They can easily find ways to win, and they're back in the hunt. So I think everybody on Twitter and the Knicks fans and the management needs to chill out. The Knicks got to go back to basics and start winning games again, and Coach Woodson will not lose his job that way.
Well, they have games coming up that they should win. Orlando, Boston, at Brooklyn, like we said, is a team that they could win. Of course, who knows with either of them.
Yeah, who does Brooklyn have other than the Knicks?
And then they also play at Cleveland.
Okay.
So the Knicks could find ways to win those games.
Yeah, for some reason the Knicks don't play good in Cleveland. I just know that for just off the top of my head. It's really funny. They just don't play well in Cleveland. It's just.
Well, see, the Nets got a little tougher of a schedule coming up. It's the Knicks at Milwaukee,
okay,
Boston, and the Clippers.
Okay,
and then they have a little.
And that you said that's in Boston.
Home.
Oh, that's home. Okay.
Boston's coming in New York for a couple of days, I guess.
Okay. That would have been cool to see the return of KG. Unfortunately, Paul Pierce is not going to be there. But, so, look at that. Knicks and Nets. Sorry, I'm on the website now, promoting the hell out of it. Yeah, so,
Who boos louder, Knicks fans or Net fans tomorrow night?
Tomorrow. Yeah, debatable.
Because you're going to get... Is it going to be boos or Brooklyn?
It's going to be both. Honestly, I went to the second Knick-Net game. The Barclays Center, it was pretty fun, especially considering how awesome the atmosphere was. But it's going to be ugly. It's both teams, Knick fans and Net fans are both going to be very, very, very ruckus because about how crappy both teams have played. And it's going to be very flammable if one team decides not to play well. Obviously, you're not going to hear it as much if the Knicks are playing like crap because it is a Brooklyn home game. So Net fans, all 5 of them are going to be able to drown out the awfulness of the Knicks. But like Melo said, they are the laughing stock of the league right now, and it's put up or shut up time. So you got to think the Knicks are going to come out all systems go. And you know how Kevin Garnett brings the best and worst out of Melo. So it's going to be interesting to see which Melo comes out and plays tomorrow night because you know KJ is going to be fired up and getting Melo kicked off.
Oh, no question about it. And that's what he does best.
And we all know from the past last year of him and the Celtics with the Honey Nut Cheerios, he actually pissed off Melo so much that he wanted to fight him in the the Celtics team bus last year. So, you know that's a heated rivalry, personal heated rivalry. So, anything could personally happen. It's just which team doesn't suck more tomorrow night and will get the win. I know that's very cliche John Madden of me, but that's how bad both teams have played.
Both teams are pretty bad
right now.
What's going on in the West League? What's going on in the West?
Golden State has been playing well. Portland's playing well. Clippers are playing decent.
Kobe's coming back soon.
Kobe's coming back real soon. So, Laker fans are getting excited about that.
Well, they announced today, not this week.
Okay.
Because it was just a matter of time, basically, until he was coming back, and they officially said that it would be not this week.
Which is expected. And he also got paid last week. Unfortunately, we didn't have a show, so congratulations to him, even though
Must be nice.
Probably didn't need it. But
it must be rough to wipe his butt with $100 bills every day.
yeah, real rough.
Blow your nose. When his kids are sick, to blow their noses in 20s, it must be the toughest thing in the world.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, to be fair to him, it's not cheap to go back and forth to Italy for these knee operations.
Oh yeah, biogenesis.
So
anyway, go Knicks and Nets. Obviously, go Knicks on Thursday night. Sorry, Net fans, but stay tuned. Hopefully, the Knicks and Nets play better because
we have Alex.
We have Alex next week, so that should be fun. Especially, hopefully, we get some bragging rights over them. Granted, that doesn't mean much right now.
Basketball can't end in a tie, right?
No, unfortunately, no. By the way, I'm gonna make a Dave Demeshek joke. The Knicks and Net game might be still going by the time Alex comes on next week.
It wouldn't shock me.
Because neither of them want to win.
What did I tell you that I'm calling it? They're gonna end up 60 points. Each team's gonna end up in 6. It's gonna be a college basketball game.
It's what like Dave Demeshek makes a joke. He wants to see the Broncos play the Cowboys in the Super Bowl. Because Tony Romo and Peyton Manning,
so unclutched.
They're so unclutched that the games will still be going until next football season.
By the way, speaking of college basketball, what's more useless than the regular season in college basketball?
Oh, it's 100% useless. I don't get into it until the conference tournaments. It is completely useless.
You might as well just play conference games, figure out the seeds, and then go to the conference tournament.
Yeah.
Skip everything else. You don't need these Big Ten ACC matchups things. Like my friend was messaging me, "Oh, Duke beat Michigan. How upset you?" I don't care. It's December.
Yeah, come back to me in February. It really.
No, come back to me in April. Let them play each other in April. And let's see what happens.
No, but February is when you play the conference tournaments, and then you play March Madness.
Yep.
So that's why I said February. Anyway, enjoy your basketball. I know there hasn't been a lot to be cheerful about, but anything can happen. It can change really quickly. Maybe the Knicks or Nets wake up first. Who is it going to be? I don't know. But stay tuned for more Division 1.1, and we will talk to our good friend Andy.
SNDPODCAST is in no way affiliated with, associated with, produced, or endorsed by the National Basketball Association or any of its affiliates.
And welcome back to episode 55 of the S&D Podcast Show on the Schmuck Sports Network. Once again, that was Division 1.1 with Dying Day. And right now we would like to welcome in Andy from Eyes on Isles. Welcome back, Andy.
What's up, Andy?
Hey, guys.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Great. Long time no speak. How's it going?
Yeah. Good. Great to be back on. I appreciate you guys welcoming me back. It has been a while.
So, I'm going to get right to it.
Uh-oh.
Isles Twitter is one of...
Andy's
We all
best friend.
love Isles Twitter. So I
Yeah.
gotta ask you, Andy, what's your opinion? Do you think that Garth gives Capuano nice meals in the basement, or just some leaky pipe while he's down there?
I actually think Jack is one of those quote-unquote jack of all trades. I think he does it all. I think he's the mechanic. I think he fixes things in the basement like leaky pipes or the central air conditioning unit or the heating unit. I also think Jack's the cook. Jack's an Italian. Jack makes a mean sauce.
I bet he does.
I think that's what keeps Garth and his family nice and full, and I think that's the reason that Cappy holds up in his basement on an inflatable mattress. Because apparently that's what Isles Twitter thinks. Isles Twitter thinks you go down in Garth's basement and it's like, you have like a laundry line with Cappy's dirty socks hanging from it, and a couple of piles of wood, which to keep for some heat, and he's like laying on some newspapers and flipping through, Moby Dick or The Old Man in the Sea. That's pretty much what Isles Twitter thinks of the relationship between Garth Snow and Jack Capuano, which is, as we all know, ridiculous.
Oh, and we also need a goalie. Fire Capuano.
Right.
A
new owner. A new general manager.
Yep.
Basically, according to Isles
arena.
Twitter, we need a new arena, a new owner, a new general manager, 2 new goalies, 4 new defensemen.
Arches in a pantry.
3 or 4 new forwards, a couple of pucks. Apparently, they don't like the water bottles. Just basic stuff, basic fundamental hockey stuff.
Just everything. The world is falling apart.
Let's
Sky's
just blow it up
falling.
and start over.
It's a mass hysteria. Cats and dogs. You know where that's from. Ghostbusters.
And look. At the end of the day, guys, I get it. I understand the fans are upset, and
No, they're not realistic at all.
well, here's the thing. If you remember, when I came on one of your shows in the summer, I believe it might have been for the NHL preview show, I had said, be careful of the expectations of this team. And that was the one thing I was most fearful about in the summer. I think that we need to remember that we lost in the first round of the playoffs last year. We didn't win. I don't care how good we played or how tough we played the Penguins. We lost in 6 games. The expectations for this team coming off of first-round elimination were just so through the roof that my biggest fears with Isles Twitter are being realized right now. We were never that good coming into this year to begin with. Now, with that being said, do I think that we would be where we are today? Absolutely not. So I get the fans' frustration, but I really think that where they thought this team would be at this point was way overblown.
What you're saying is they were typical New York sport fans.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much, yeah. I think we see it. Yeah.
All right, so we need to take Dr. Andy. Let's get the temperature of this team right now. Obviously, after coming back on back-to-back overtime losses, granted 2 points are better than no points, especially after an awful November, typical awful November. At least it wasn't a no-win November, which everybody was shooting for. Obviously, being sarcastic. What after the last 2 games? What do you think is the positives and unfortunately the negatives glaring on both sides of? Let's start with the bad, since we'd rather end off with the good notes.
The bad is, I don't think that at this point we ever thought that we'd be discussing a problem with the Islanders scoring, and that's exactly what we're seeing. Secondary scoring has literally fallen off the face of the map. Josh Bailey, Michael Grabner, just not producing anything. Franz Nielsen looks a little worn out. His offensive numbers have fallen off the table since his, what I'm going to say, unrealistic start in terms of his offensive numbers.
Hey, he's 10 goals away from my prediction.
True. I don't think that's something we ever thought we'd be talking about at this point, though, is the Islanders' offense. And that's where we find ourselves. I think the defense the last couple of games has come together and played better. But again, that's baby steps considering how bad they played in November. The goaltending for me hasn't been an issue. I think Kevin Poulin and Anders Nielsen are giving us a glimpse of, hey, we may just have a 1-2 going into the future with these 2 guys. That's how good I think they're playing. But, John Tavares has not been, and this is going to upset a lot of people, but it's the truth when you think about it.
Pipe bomb?
He has not been a difference maker. To me, he's a top 10, arguably top 5 player in the National Hockey League. At that level, you need to be a difference maker. And stats be damned, he, for me, has not been that difference maker consistently. And I'm talking difference maker as in what we saw last night with Sidney Crosby. That's a difference maker. Tying goal on the power play in the third, just completely taking over in overtime and willing himself to the net for the game-winning goal. That kind of difference maker, John Tavares has not been. And I don't know if it's a reflection of the captaincy weighing him down, the pressures of that. I really don't know. But
from my opinion, obviously, I'm not in the locker room as much as you, obviously. But from everything I've been reading through your site, not trying to kiss ass, your site and all the other on their Twitter and everything on all the interviews, it seems like there's no pressure at all, and he's taking everything responsible, like any responsible captain would take it. What's your temperature feeling? It seemed like everybody. It's not really the pressure of him being captain. It's just the pressure of him being a finalist for the Hart Trophy, and no one else really stepping up to the plate, helping him out, kind of thing. I think that it's more of that right now than everybody's gunning for him, even though everybody's been gunning for him his whole career so far. But this year, now it's all about him because no one else is scoring, pretty much. Would you agree with that?
the thing with John is he's very calculated in his answers. When you talk to John, you can see that he is always thinking ahead of even what you ask. It's almost like you start second guessing yourself and saying, "Did he almost know what I was going to ask?" That's how good and calculated his answers are.
He went to the school of Derek Jeter and Eli Manning, essentially.
Well, this kid's been in the media since he was 14 years old, so he knows how to handle us. He knows what we need to hear. He doesn't tell us what we want to hear. He tells us what we have to hear. You're never going to hear him sell anybody down the river, his coach included, his teammates. You're not going to hear that. What I did like was after the Washington game, he placed full responsibility on himself and his line for their failure on the Nicholas Backstrom shorthanded goal with under a minute left that tied it. But I also think that he's not the kind of vocal leader that this club might need right now, because we know Andrew McDonald and Kyle Okposo certainly aren't either. I think they almost need somebody in that room to start, throwing trash cans and snapping sticks and showing a really deep-rooted sense of emotion that I just don't think is in Tavares' character. And that doesn't mean that he can't develop into a great leader, but I think he's struggling with how to get these guys motivated right now. It's tough being in that room. It's a tough room right now. The mood is very, very somber. It's very, very down, very frustrating. So I don't envy the position he's in, but at the same time, you're the face of the franchise. You're the captain of the team. There comes a certain amount of responsibility with that, and I think he's still trying to find out how he's going to play that, in my opinion.
All right, so the other night they lost because Ovechkin just decided, okay, I'm just going to be Ovechkin.
Right.
And the other night after that, the game after that, they lost because of what I think was just bad defense and Sidney Crosby just being Sidney Crosby.
Yep. I think Sidney, like you just said, Sidney being Sidney and Alex being Alex. Those shots, not really the Crosby shot. I go back to the Ovechkin shot more, and I said it to a couple of guys in the room after we had wrapped up for the evening. I said, that shot by Ovechkin in overtime goes in on
Everybody.
Probably 80% of NHL goalies, maybe even more. So I really chalk that up to that. You make a good point about the Crosby goal. I think Sidney is so smart, and he's so great. He is the best player in the game today. If you're going to tell me that he didn't know that was Calvin DeHaan he was coming in on, I'm going to call you a liar, because he definitely knew who he was coming in against. And really tough spot there for Calvin. He just, unfortunately, he backed in way too much. He didn't step up, even though he had defensive help on his right. And Sidney just went through him like butter.
Yeah, and also the puck was bouncing.
Yeah.
Also bounced, and
it's like a chip shot he put over Nielsen, yeah.
Like I said to my friend, though, you take the penalty. I would have rather see DeHaan throw Crosby on his butt and take a penalty there.
Well, if that's the case, I don't think he gets a penalty there, because I think that in the situation that it was Crosby coming in on a 1-on-2, essentially, I think if DeHaan steps up and takes the body, it's a perfectly legal play, as long as he does it legally. No high stick and stuff like that.
Come on, Andy. Isles Twitter. The NHL is rigged.
Isles Twitter posted a funny picture today of Gary Bettman. They had found a photo of Bettman screaming at one of his meetings or whatever, and it said something like, "Pens are down 2-0, get me on the phone," or something like that. Or, look, there's no conspiracy, guys. It does always seem like we get the raw end of the stick when we play the Penguins. I can see that from a fan's perspective. But I can assure you there's no NHL conspiracy against the Islanders. The Vanek calls, I don't know how to explain that. I mean, maybe the ref figured, the Islanders are already up a man. There's under a minute left to play, and he just, like in the old days, put the whistle in his pocket. I don't know. I mean, they were pretty clear what Letang did to Vanek to me twice. But at the same time, we're not out there reffing. At the speed of the game today, it's not an easy job. I will say that.
It's not. Actually, right before that, when Malkin actually ended up taking the penalty.
Yep, on Tavares, yep.
If you actually watch that whole shift by him,
mm-hmm.
he could have been called for about 5 to 6 things.
Yeah.
There was a point behind the net where I think it was Aaron Ness.
Yeah, it was. Aaron Ness was out. Yeah.
And he just slashed him on the leg a couple times, punched him in the head a couple times, threw him to the ground a couple times, and then skated away. And then when Tavares gets on the ice, Malkin bumps into him, and that's the penalty they end up calling.
Yeah, I think that the refs let a certain amount of that jostling obviously go, and then it gets to a point where you just you're almost kind of forced to call something at that point. I think you're forgetting, though, the fact that, Anders Nielsen got away with a pretty nice lumber-style Billy Smith-type hack against Malkin, too, earlier in the period. So, like I said, I always tend to shy away from the officiating controversies because I've truly felt that calls tend to even themselves out over the course of a season even. And to me, the Islanders didn't lose that game because of the officials. They lost that game because their offense was basically punchless. I tweeted after the game that, in my estimation, that game was Penguins 3, Fleury 2, and the Islanders nothing. That's truly how I felt about it. Too much perimeter play. As Jack Capuano says, not enough guys getting into the dirty areas. Nobody in front of the net. Nobody making it hard on Fleury last night. And the 2 goals they scored were basically gifts. That's just being realistic.
Okay. What's that spark the Islanders need to get back into the respectable talk? Maybe, hopefully, get back into this playoff talk. What do you think? Like, it's from my perception, is the Islanders know how to play 2 periods every night, and for some reason, the 3rd period they just get that blank look, and they get sloppy and lazy, like we mentioned before we got on. Yep. What gives? I know I'm not a part of Fire Campy because obviously that's not going to solve anything. But what needs to get through these guys that needs to get them over the hump and get to the next level of the progression of the rebuild, the final stop of the rebuilding?
Well, I think that it's got to come from within, right? I mean, what we've seen is the trade market is way too expensive for Garth Snow to even think about dipping into those waters. We know that there's no help coming up from the farm system. We've seen Matt Donovan come up and subsequently, in my opinion, incorrectly sent back down. We've seen Calvin DeHaan come up and play well. It's only been 2 games. It's a small sample size, but when you consider who he went up against in the Caps and the Pens, he's played really well and has been really steady. So I don't think any help's coming from the outside for sure. I don't think any more help is coming from the inside, with perhaps the exception of Ryan Strome maybe down the road. But I still don't think Strome is physically ready for the National Hockey League yet. I think he's better served in Bridgeport right now.
How is he doing in Bridgeport?
He's doing well. He's actually lighting the league on fire. He just won Player of the Month honors. He is off to an extremely good start, leading the team in scoring.
I love what he said that, I don't remember where my friend told me he saw it, but he read that Strome said that when he comes up,
he wants to stay up. Yep, right.
Of course,
I just
say that. Cause...
I just don't think this is the right. I think we have a lot of guys on the Islanders who are passengers right now. As I know people are going to hate me for saying that because it sounds so Cappy-ish, but I just don't think the play. Here's the thing with Jack Capuano. I don't like mid-season coaching changes. I don't think they work.
They don't.
But
you're just giving up on the season where it's still very early in the year, and November isn't your forte in the past year. They can catch fire, and especially how the East has been the last couple of months, it's very inconsistent, especially in the Metropolitan Division.
Yes, it is.
So you can catch fire because you can think you're equal or better than the Devils and the Rangers and the Flyers. There is a huge cluster. Even Columbus, the only 2 teams that you cannot beat on a daily basis is the Penguins and the Caps. And the Caps is debatable every now and then.
Debatable, I agree.
Debatable at most, but more times than not, the Caps will have their better effort against the Islanders. So, the Islanders just need to get something, that spark, like we mentioned. and I don't know how and where they're going to find it, especially the way they've been playing. It's amazing how many blown leads they have because they don't show up in the third period.
That's an experience, though. I think that's an experience, and I think that this Islanders group, especially the core group. But again, I'll go back to what I said earlier. They had 6 games last year of really intense playoff action. That's it. Don't forget, that was the first time a lot of these guys have even sniffed that level of play. So you're not going to get that type of experience in 6 games that is going to carry over and all of a sudden make you a top 2 team in a conference. It just doesn't happen like that. It's a lot slower than that.
I think that's kind of a cop-out, if you ask me, about the whole inexperience kind of thing. You should still be able to know how to play 60-minute period hockey.
Not necessarily.
But
all right,
especially the amount of times they do it, I think...
Let's use this as a barometer game. Let's use Thursday, January 2nd, when the defending Stanley Cup champion Chicago Blackhawks come to the Nassau Coliseum. Let's use that as a measuring stick. And let's watch that game closely, you and I. And you tell me if the differences in experience doesn't show right before your very eyes.
I'm sure. I'm not. Obviously, there's going to be inexperiences. I'm not completely.
For instance, the Blackhawks down by a goal or up by a goal in the third period play the same exact way. There is no tightness in that group. There is no panic in that group. It's just calming, a veteran influence up and down that lineup. The Islanders don't have that, especially without Wisnowski. They just don't have that.
But how, all right. How about maybe 10 times out of the last couple of years? How many times do they need to learn and get burned by it to actually learn that they have to play 3 solid periods? That's what gets me so frustrated.
But in retrospect, though, look at their defense. Brian Strait, Thomas Hickey. Now Calvin DeHaan. These are guys who, Strait and Hickey, what they play for? They played a lockout shortened season last year, and that was it, and a 6-game playoff. I mean, that's what I mean by inexperience. These guys haven't learned yet what it takes to hold on to that 1-goal lead late. They just haven't learned it yet. Getting back to the coaching for a second, as I said, I don't believe in midseason coaching changes, but in defense of the fans who are screaming for it, here's how I think of coaching, and this is how it was explained to me in the press box by Christian Arnold of New York Hockey Journal, because I was never able to understand how players could quit on a coach. That just never, in any sport, it just never made sense to me. Quitting on a coach, what does that even mean? And he explained it to me in a very simple grammar school-like way that makes so much sense now. Every coach has a shelf life. You're not going to see any Scotty Bowmans or Al Arbors or Toe Blakes anymore. You're not going to see that anymore. Every coach has a shelf life. We saw it in Philadelphia with Peter Laviolette. I just think that Cappy's shelf life might be expired at this point. I just think this is about as far as he can take this team, and they need somebody else to kind of get them over the hump and take them the rest of the way. That's what I'll say in defense of the fans who are really clamoring for it.
I was talking to guys from, I don't know if we're really allowed to talk about it, the BOA from the other night. They met Capuano.
Yep.
It was a nice, awesome meet and greet with Snow, Capuano,
and Andrew McDonald.
Ended up being Andrew McDonald.
Right.
Every person I spoke to that was there has gained a new respect for Jack Capuano. They said they heard the passion in his voice.
Yep.
And you know what? I'm sick and tired of the let's fire a coach every November, because that's what this team does. Fires their coach every other November. Okay, Steve Sterling. Yeah, we should have fired him. I'll give you that one. But Scott Gordon didn't deserve to be fired.
Neither did Peter Laviolette the first time.
Neither did Laviolette. And look at what happened.
And the thing with Laviolette, that was a stupid mutiny.
That's what that was.
That was just a stupid mutiny.
Good call.
And you can't fire. It's exactly what happened with Tortorella and the Rangers last year.
The inmates ran the asylum.
Exactly. A couple players didn't like them, and it was 3 against 1. And you're obviously gonna fire the coach before you have to trade or release 5 guys. and 5 key guys. Apparently, the rumors back then were prominent guys. So, excuse me. It's just one of those catch-22s. It really is one of the most hypocritical things. Is if you're winning, he's the greatest coach of all time. If he's losing, he's a bum. Get rid of him. You got to stay the course. There's still plenty of hockey left. There's plenty, and honestly, the whole entire landscape of New York sports. It goes for the Giants. It goes for the Jets. It goes with the Islanders. It goes for the Rangers.
Knicks, Nets.
Nets.
Yep.
The Nets. They fired Lawrence Frank because they have differences, and it's been 10 games.
Right.
They didn't fire him. They moved him to the video.
He's doing notes. A guy who
I think what Steve said makes the most sense, and that's it's the passion in Cappy. We see it every game in the post game, and I know people were sitting there in the media room, 6 inches away from the guy, and it's so evident the level of frustration that he has in his voice and on his face, and the passion that he has. He really wants this team to come together, and he really wants this team to win, but there's only so much he can do, and that's what people don't understand. A coach's role, is to put in a system, work that system through practice and drills. That's it. It's X's and O's, guys. It's lineup changes. It's deciding who's going to play and who's not worthy of playing on a given night. But at the end of the day, the players have to perform on the ice. The players have to earn their paychecks. And in the case of the Islanders, that's not happening.
Okay, so let me ask you this, because this is actually, of course, something else Isles Twitter loves to cry about.
Mm-hmm.
Is Brock Nelson getting the Nino treatment?
Absolutely not. Brock Nelson, the Islanders are gun-shy with the treatment of Brock Nelson due to what happened with Nino and with Josh Bailey to a certain extent. I think that they felt they rushed Bailey, and they did, causing his development to really, really slow. They obviously rushed Niederreiter, put him in an unwinnable situation where he forced a trade out of Long Island. So I think they're really gun-shy about doing the same thing with Brock, and they're bringing him along slowly. There's no reason for Brock Nelson, as a rookie in the National Hockey League that's not named Nathan McKinnon, for instance, to play every night. Let him sit in the press box a couple of nights, let him learn. I think Capuano's thought process is we need the veterans to get us through this. We're not going to rely on a 23-year-old kid who is not known to be an offensive force. Let's be realistic about what Brock is. To get us through this kind of slump, we need veterans to get us through this kind of slump. And I think that's the thought process with Brock. We're seeing it across the Hudson with a guy named Chris Kreider, who last year suffered through this kind of supposed treatment, quote-unquote, from John Tortorella. Chris Kreider looks pretty darn good to me this year, doesn't he?
Yeah, well, getting a hat trick against old Torts.
So, no, he's almost I think he's got like 16 points in 20 games, and
he's definitely looked completely different.
Yeah, so I don't think there's going to be a problem with Brock Nelson. I think it goes to the player's personality and what's in his head and what's in his heart. I think that's the big difference between Nino Niederreiter and Brock Nelson. Brock Nelson's a strong kid. He's a confident kid. He's a smart kid. We've talked to him in the room. There's nothing about this kid that's going to turn him into Nino Niederreiter, believe me. And his career will be just fine in the blue and orange.
Oh, and don't forget that Capuano has to be fired because Nino's having a hell of a season in Minnesota.
Hell of a season, really. I didn't know that I didn't know that a 13-goal, 38-point pace was having a hell of a season. But
hey,
maybe I'm wrong.
Twitter, man.
Maybe I'm wrong. I actually
Twitter.
just prorated those numbers out the other day, and Nino Niederreiter's 82-game totals, his pace right now, is 13 goals and like 30 assists or 28 assists.
Come on, Isles Twitter knows everything.
I didn't know that 13 goals in 82 games was that good, but okay.
Don't you know that Isles Twitter knows everything?
They obviously do.
So, all right, let's go around the league right now. Well, let's stick in the Metropolitan Division, particularly the Rangers and Devils. What's your take on them so far this early season? It's especially since you have AJ around you 24/7, watching every amount of Ranger games as you are with the Islanders. What's your take so far for the Rangers' play so far? I think it's a lot of inconsistencies, but once they get that groove going, they can get really hot, and they won't turn back, kind of thing. If they get that system going with AV, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't think the Rangers. They're showing what the Metropolitan Division is showing, and pretty much the whole Eastern Conference, and that's just the general inconsistency, the ups and downs. So I think that with Lundqvist signing his contract extension today of 7 years at $8.5 million per, I think that's going to relax him a little bit and allow him to really focus on getting his game back. They obviously have the best goaltender in the conference, I think, arguably in the league. They have one of the top defenses in the conference. I think once their offense starts producing, which eventually it will.
It's starting to, though.
That's what I mean. I think they're definitely a top 3 team in that division, especially constructed the way it is right now. I think that they finish in the top 3. I don't think the Devils do, because simply I don't think the Devils can score enough.
And Nash is finally getting back. I don't know if you've been watching a lot of the Rangers, because obviously
I have to.
Well, I know you have to. Like,
AJ gets the remote first.
Well, like how I have to. I've been very impressed on how Rick Nash has come along since his injury.
I love Rick Nash. I think Rick Nash is actually one of my favorite players in the league. I think he's a really good player.
I do too, and especially that one goal he had. I think it was either Boston or was it?
Where he walked out of the corner. Yeah,
he walked right out of the corner.
Yeah.
He looked vintage Jaromir Jagr, and that's really good for the Rangers, Ranger fans and Rangers.
I agree.
They need to get the second group of goal scoring going. Stefan hasn't scored much, but they've been getting this. Kreider's getting surprises, and it's been good so far for the Rangers. They've been stepping up a little bit. Cam Talbot, the unsung hero so far. Unfortunately, they started him one too many games.
Of course, AV should be fired according to Ranger Twitter after he started him the other day. I mean, why would you give Lundqvist nights off?
That's another overreaction.
Of course,
because when I was listening to the pregame the other day before watching the game against the Canucks, because I was driving to my girlfriend's. AV was saying the whole time they're playing 10 games in 15 days. It's going to be 6-3. So it just happened to be the 3 games were all in a row. So everybody needs to relax a bit and chill, especially since this year is Olympic year, and everybody knows, and their mother knows, that he's going to be starting for Team Sweden.
Well, their mother might not know, but everybody else knows.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think the Devils too. I think getting to them for a second, I think they got a couple of exciting new rookies coming up. That kid Jelena looks pretty good. But I think at the end of the day, they have great goaltending too. Brodor's defying age. Corey Schneider is the guy that we probably almost had at the draft. But I just don't think they're going to get enough goals to sustain many wins. I think they finish outside the top 3. I think they'll probably finish anywhere from 5th to 7th in that division when all's said and done, simply because Jaromir Jagr is not going to keep up this pace. He's just not.
Okay, one Ranger rumor before we move on. Any likelihood that they're going to try to trade Del Zotto?
Michael Del Zotto
will
be
the
traded.
Islanders. Don't you read Isles Twitter? Come on.
Twitter. No.
Michael Del Zotto will be traded. It will not be to the Islanders. Garth Snow and Glenn Sather did speak about 2 weeks ago. Garth did not like what he heard. So Michael Del Zotto will not be coming to the Islanders.
That's good.
But he will be traded. He will be traded. There's rumors that the Canadians are hot on his tail, but
he needs to get out of New York. He does.
Sather's overvaluing him, right? Because Sather wants a second line forward
You're
for
not
Del
getting
Zotto.
that. No way.
Now, a team trading for Michael Del Zotto has to decide for them whether at 23, is this the best you're going to get out of him, or is there still more to come? Is there still more learning? Is there still more? He looked horrendous the other night in the loss to Winnipeg.
But he had that goal.
Right after the game, I had actually tweeted out, I said, if anybody saw the Michael Del Zotto performance tonight, is this the guy you want on the Islanders? And the answer is a resounding no. It's not.
Absolutely not. He'll have one solid game. He'll have one solid play, and then he'll back it up with 3 shitty moves.
Right.
And it's like clockwork. And even my girlfriend points that out.
He will get traded, though. He will not be a Ranger for this whole season.
And that's good and bad. That's the problem with the Rangers' power play. Granted, they've been scoring a lot more on the power play lately. When Dan Girardi's quarterbacking the power play,
right? They don't have a true. They haven't had a true power play quarterback in years.
They don't have a quarterback at all.
Right.
And that's what the Rangers are missing to become that elite.
That's what our power play is missing as well.
Yeah.
Oh, it all went downhill when Lubo went down.
Yep, absolutely. Sure did.
Which is funny because Doug Wade is the guy who runs the power play yet.
Yeah, but there's only so much he can do with the personnel.
But it's Capuano's fault. The power play's not working.
I think the Islanders too were hamstrung. If I can just get back to them for a quick second, I think that you're looking at guys who at the beginning of the season were not supposed to be in the roles they're in. Andrew McDonald is a good hockey player, but he is not a 30-minute number one pairing guy, and that's what he's being forced to play. Matt Karkner, Radek Martinek, these are guys who were forced to play more games and more minutes than they should under normal circumstances. So, the unfortunate injuries happen. You can't foresee injuries happening, but unfortunately, a lot of the Islanders' pipeline on defense is so young and so raw that they just didn't have the organizational depth yet to cover up for those injuries.
Agreed. 100% agreed. What's your biggest surprise so far, Andy, in the all NHL?
It's got to be Alex Steen of the St. Louis Blues. I've always thought Alex was a great player. I think the Blues are a great hockey team. They're a very likable team. I think they're built similarly to the Islanders. Records would say they're very much on the opposite end, but Alex Steen, who would have thought he would come out of the gate like this? 20 goals. Just an unbelievable pace. He's going neck and neck with Alex Ovechkin for the NHL goal scoring lead. I think that to me has got to be by far my biggest surprise. And man, the Chicago Blackhawks out west just keep ticking along, don't they? Unbelievable. 20 and what are they? 25-4 or something like that, or 24-4. Just unbelievable. What Joel Quenneville is getting out of that club.
I'll tell you what. I was looking at their schedule because I was kind of hoping they'd end up spending New Year's in New York. Give us a little.
Well, they're like I said, they're at the Coliseum on the 2nd. I'm not sure what their game is prior to that.
They're at home on the 31st.
Oh, they're at home on New Year's Eve.
Still gonna get hammered, drunk. Don't worry.
Oh yeah.
He'll have a 2-day hang.
Oh, stop! Patrick Kane's done a lot of growing up the last 2 years.
And punch a cabbie because
a lot of growing up.
$2 cab fee.
He's done a lot of growing up. That kid.
Yeah.
He puts horses' heads on, so nobody knows it's him now.
Yeah, exactly.
He still can drink every now and then. Who are we fooling? He's still 25 years old.
He's the one that I'm looking most forward to talking to on the 2nd when I get out there. I'm looking forward to maybe getting a couple of minutes with him. So we'll see.
You're definitely coming out for the 2nd?
Yeah, I'll definitely be out for the 2nd game. Yeah.
Man crush action going on.
I do have a man crush on Kane.
I can't blame him for that.
It's okay. I have one on Henrik Lundqvist.
It's in the West though, so it's good. There's no conflict of interest there.
This is very true.
I have a man crush on.
But yeah, I think Alex Steen by far is my biggest surprise as far as an individual player goes. I think you just can't discount what he's done in St. Louis. You just can't. I think as far as a team goes, I don't even think it's a homer pick to say this, but I think my most disappointing team in the whole league has to be the Islanders. And again, I never overdid my expectations on what to think from this club, but I would have never thought that they'd be, 3rd or 4th from the bottom of the whole league at this point.
All right, Andy, what's coming up on Eyes on Isles?
Eyes on Isles. Well, we just put out our Tweets of the Week feature today, which is a pretty fun, light read. It gets a lot of the fans, laughing a little bit more so than they normally would, or probably that they need to do right now. We got the Dump and Chase podcast still going strong. We're going to have a couple of exciting guests coming on that soon, including yourselves.
Ooh.
So that's getting rolling. We're taping episode 11 of that tonight. And just continue to look for outstanding op-eds. I think I'm actually going to have an op-ed coming out probably within the next 2 days on just when fans say what they expected Garth Snow to do over the summer. I think my op-ed's going to revolve around refreshing people's memory on what types of players were available over the summer. And I think when people see the list, they're going to think that Garth probably did a pretty decent job in staying away from some of the guys that were unrestricted free agents in July.
And then there's one more promotion out of you, right?
One more promotion.
Sunday the 8th.
Oh, yes, I apologize. I forgot about that. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah, Sunday. This Sunday I'll be on 12:40 a.m. New York Sports Talk Radio in Long Island, chatting up Gary Harding, the host, from 9:30 to 10 o'clock. We'll be live on the air talking about the slide and seeing what we could do to come out of it. So hope everybody tunes in for that as well.
Absolutely. As always, we love you. Thank you for coming on. We love having you on. Definitely check out Eyes and Isles and everything that Andy does. He's a great follow on Twitter. Tasman19, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Tasman19. I've been looking at it enough. I should know it by now.
You should know it by heart now. Well, you and I have more Facebook interactions than Twitter anyway.
Yeah.
I try to avoid him as much as I can.
Yeah, Steve does a pretty good job with that. He stalks me only when it's convenient for him.
It's
yeah,
true.
it seems about right.
I do that for everybody. Don't feel too bad.
No, but thank you guys. I think he's doing a great job, and thanks for having me on. I really appreciate the time.
Thanks for coming on.
And if we don't talk to you before Christmas, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Thank you very much. Happy holidays to you guys as well.
Thank you, Andy.
No problem.
Let's go listen to a little more Division 1.1, and we'll be right back.
SND Podcast is no way affiliated with, associated with, produced, or endorsed by the National Hockey League or any of its affiliates.
Welcome back to episode 55 of the SND Podcast Show on the Schmuck Sports Network. Once again, Division 1.1 Dying Day. Like we've been talking about, they are working on the new stuff. So give them some time. It should be out about springtime. I was talking to Brian the other day about it. Thank you again to Andy from Eyes on Isles.
Of course, thanks to Andy as always.
Always a great time when Andy joins us.
Yeah. So that special thanks to him. Great insight around the hockey league, especially for the Islanders. He's been doing tremendous work with Eyes and Isles. Being able to get media credentials this year has definitely been adding to how great their work actually is. Their hard work with their own podcast, especially Dump and Chase podcast, definitely give it a listen to after you listen to our show. Absolutely great show. The boys put in a hard work effort. Like they say, from the first line until Long Island, from the fourth line in Bridgeport, they're all over it. So I'll give those guys a listen. Keep reading Eyes on Isles. They're great reads. Don't forget AJ, his son AJ with Blue Line Station, taking care of business on that website as well with both New York local hockey teams. So you're not missing a beat with both son and dad with that combo. With that being said, another fun football week ahead.
Let's do some picks.
Let's do some picks.
Alrighty, crappy Thursday night game.
Thursday night game, whatever. Whatever. Who cares? I'm gonna go with the Texans. I think they're finally gonna find a way to win. But if the Jaguars win, it's not really shocking. I'm gonna go with the Texans on that one. Who do you have?
I'm gonna take Jacksonville on that one.
All right.
Been pulling Jacksonville for a couple of weeks. Might as well keep running them.
Okay.
Cincinnati hosting the Colts.
I have Cincinnati. Just the way the Colts have been playing hasn't been up to par. They've been not playing great. It's going to be interesting which Andy Dalton shows up, if he's able to get the ball to A.J. Green and his other stable wide receivers. It could be a long day for the Colts. I think the Bengals are going to win it. They're home and they're going to be ready to play, and they know the division's all up on for them for the taking, especially how the Ravens and Steelers have been playing mediocre as of late. Speaking about the Ravens, how crazy was that with the Mike Tomlin coming to the sideline?
You didn't realize where it was? What are you talking about?
Yeah, fuck, lies. Well deserved with the fine, but I don't think they should get rid of draft picks. It was just very wacky. But that's my take on it. A lot of people thinking...
I'll tell you what, it would have been a lot worse if Baltimore ends up losing that game.
Yeah, that would have been a bloodbath if that happened. Let's see, what other game? We both said that the Raiders are going to beat the Jets. All All right, I got a good game. Lions at Eagles. I'm going to say the Eagles are going to stay hot. You don't know how the Lions are going to play from week to week. They could find a way to blow it and cost themselves a game with stupid penalties or stupid interceptions. They handled the Packers pretty well, but that was with Matt Flynn, so they were on cruise control that whole game on Thanksgiving. So I'm going to go with the Eagles. Nick Foles has been playing lights out as of late. 19 touchdowns, and that's impressive, especially since he hasn't been the starter the whole entire season. So I'm going to go with the Eagles, especially at home. Granted, they haven't not been a great home team as of late, last year and a half, but they're going to get off the schneid. I know they won one last home game, but they're going to build up on a winning streak at home and be dominant at home like they used to be. So I'm going to take the Eagles. How about you?
Yeah, I gotta go with the Eagles. Just Foles has just been on fire, and I don't see him slowing down, especially at home. And the Lions are just too inconsistent.
Yeah, you don't know which Lions team you're gonna get. We're both gonna take the Chiefs. I'm assuming against the Redskins.
Packers, Falcons.
Falcons. I'm gonna go.
Rodgers is maybe.
Rodgers maybe. I still find a way the Packers are gonna win the game. I think they're just due for a win. They've had a rough month, so I'm gonna go with the Packers.
Yeah. Rodgers or no Rodgers, I'm going to say if Rodgers doesn't play, I'm going to go with Atlanta.
All right. We're going to get to the three key marquee matchups this week. The first one is Seahawks go to Candlestick Park and play the 49ers.
Niners win.
I say the Niners win. They're going to be my upset pick of the week. I think the Niners are going to find a way to pull it out this week. It's not in Seattle, so Seattle is not that team to be reckoned with. They could be had, especially at home with the Niners, especially how they've been playing. They've been getting a little bit better, healthier. They're still not going to win the division because that's how good the Seahawks have been this year. But they make that solid case for the wild card spot, and anything can happen. So I'm going to take the Niners as my upset pick this week.
Yeah, like I said, I have the Niners winning this game as well.
What is your upset pick this week?
Jacksonville.
Jacksonville is going to be your upset pick?
Yeah.
Jacksonville is actually the underdogs in this game? Oof.
Yeah, that's how bad of a game it is.
Yeah.
New Orleans hosting the Panthers. Sunday Night Football. Flexed into Sunday Night Football.
As much as I want to say Panthers, I'm going to go Saints. You can't get...
Saints at home.
Saints at home is a different animal, unfortunately. Especially how embarrassed they got from the Seahawks on Monday night. I don't see them losing 2 in a row, especially a home game on Sunday night is a different animal. Unfortunately, the Panthers are not ready for that buzzsaw. They're a great team, and they're going to hopefully make noise in the playoffs, but this week they're going to lose to the Saints. Have the Saints winning.
Yeah, I have the Saints winning that game as well. Monday Night Football. Chicago hosting the Cowboys.
Well, if Jay Cutler comes back, it's going to be a better matchup for the Bears. But I'm gonna stick with the Cowboys. They're going to find a way to pull it out on the road. Just a better quarterback situation at the moment, an overall better team. DeMarco Murray is going to have a big game because the Bears defense has nothing up the middle. Brendan Jacobs can get 100 yards rushing. DeMarco Murray is going to have no problem. As long as the weather is fine and it's not crappy bear weather, the Cowboys will win. So I'm gonna stick with the Cowboys. They're gonna pull out the division win, unless the Eagles have something to say with it.
All right. All of our picks are on our Facebook page, so like our Facebook page, our Twitter page, our Instagram page, and all the other things to like and.
Yeah, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that other fun stuff. Thanks again to Andy for coming on. Enjoy.
All right, quick before we go. Missouri, Auburn. Duke, Florida State.
Florida State,
Stanford, Arizona State.
Stanford.
Ohio State, Michigan State.
Ohio State. And it's going to be Ohio State, Florida State national championship game.
Well, that'll be determined this week when they talk about what's his name's legal issues.
Jameson winning the Heisman, or no? He's going to be scared off.
Voting's already done.
Voting is on, but do you think? But yes. Everybody knows about it. Do you think he still wins it, even though with the legal ramifications?
Yes.
Okay, fair enough.
He deserves it.
He deserves it, but it's going to be scared off that the whole sexual assault looming on him. So I think AJ McCarron would have won it if they beat Auburn on Saturday. But It's either here or there. You can blame it on Nick Saban on that loss. Anyway, that's our show. Enjoy our show. Keep listening. Thank you for your support, and talk to you guys next week.
Have a good one.
His motto is, don't give up, don't ever give up.